Falling in love can be an immensely positive endeavor, and while in love, the world is ostensibly brighter due to the profound happiness we experience. If the person you love reciprocates your sentiments especially, then it feels like everything is perfect, and nothing is amiss. However, as rosy as love seems, it always presents a significant trap, in addition to perceived rewards. This phenomenon is akin to walking near a cliff, because although the view is breathtaking, if you take one step too far, then you'll fall over the edge into an unforgiving abyss. Love can be sweet, love can be kind, but it can also be sharp, brutal, and merciless. When we aren't entranced by romance, we can rationally comprehend that love has a proclivity to blind us. But why does it become arduous to preserve rationality when we are gripped by love? We witness a particular loss of rationality most evident in some romantic relationships, but this also occurs in platonic relations as well, like parents refusing to condemn negative actions by their children, for example. Why does love blind us so easily? What are the consequences of seeing everything through rose-tinted glasses, and more importantly, how can we prevent ourselves from doing so? Today's discussion will predominantly explore love's proclivity to blind us regarding negative aspects of loved ones in a romantic or non-platonic relationship context. However, love's robust tendency of distorting our vision of family members in platonic relationships will also be briefly examined, as this dimension is still worth highlighting. The consequences of love blindness will also be illustrated, along with practical methods to avoid falling into this trap. It is possible to maintain your rationality while experiencing love, but only if you don't allow yourself to fully succumb to the emotion. To begin, why does love blind us? Well, love is perhaps the most fundamental emotion required for lasting relationships, with significant others and family members alike. Without love, respect and duty only go so far in preserving these intimate relationships, because once you lose the respect, then any sense of duty or obligation tends to follow. Additionally, love can arguably be classified as a source of respect and duty in those senses. As we often witness in daily life, love is ostensibly the primary motivator for performing specific actions in service of others, especially where it wouldn't make sense doing so. An example could be an elderly man taking care of his sick wife, or vice versa. The less arduous option would be for the still relatively able-bodied spouse to put their partner into a care home or comparable center with a greater standard of care. It could even be denoted as the better, more respectful option to place one's sick partner into those places. This would also satisfy the duty obligation because relinquishing them there would likely keep them alive longer and, in the very least, prevent their condition from possibly deteriorating at a more rapid pace. For the healthy spouse, they would have greater peace of mind, less strain on their physical and mental abilities, and possibly less financial strain as well. Even with the benefits that come with sending their sick partner off elsewhere, they still choose to take care of their spouse themselves. Why? Is this due to a profound internal loyalty? Maybe. But where does that loyalty originate? What emotion drives that loyalty? The answer for many would be readily apparent. Love. The able-bodied elderly spouse wouldn't take care of their sick partner to such a great extent if they didn't love them. If we continue on the tangent of how love goes further than respect, think about the relationships between colleagues. You may respect your colleagues and have particular obligations to them, but you likely don't love them. You probably only do what is necessary and interact with them to the extent that is required for work. Even if we grant that you sometimes perform friendly gestures towards them, like throw a retirement party or get food for them, this pales in comparison to the actions you would enact for a loved one. In our close relationships, love also enables us to forgive loved ones for their trespasses. This is especially pertinent because there will always be thoughts and actions by loved ones that offend us. When arguments arise, as they frequently tend to do, what prevents us from completely cutting ties with these people? What drives us to return and continue to be with them after we've cooled down? Once again, the answer is love. At this point, you realize that love is a crucial, if not the most crucial, component of lasting relationships. However, while love carries positive connotations, it also has significant drawbacks as well. It's an evidently double-edged sword, where the side closest to us can certainly inflict harm if we aren't careful. What has been implied thus far is that love can blind us because we desire to forget the negative aspects of life. It doesn't take much concentration to witness how injurious life can be. There's plenty of pain, sickness, destruction, and death. Furthermore, we realize that life can end abruptly at any moment, and so, We want to forget these depressing thoughts in spite of how true they are. Falling in love with someone is often utilized as a means to escape these realizations. Putting on the rose-tinted glasses, fantasizing, and envisioning how circumstances could be with another person is certainly an addicting phenomenon. It transports us to a fantasy world in our minds, and though an illusion, it has just enough reality mixed in to convince us that we should pursue it. The consequences of becoming so transfixed by love is that it assumes a primary focus, the ultimate objective, and nothing else really matters. If you fall in love with someone and they reciprocate your feelings, then this possibility is almost guaranteed to arise, notably when caution is thrown to the wind. Whether you're in the relationship-seeking stage or have successfully obtained one, becoming mentally hijacked by love will cause more harm than good. This is because your rose-tinted glasses distort your perception of your love interest. Their positive traits will likely be elevated over the negative in your mind, and this is problematic if they don't possess very many positive traits. At that point, those qualities will become exaggerated or embellished. A dangerous prospect indeed, especially if the person you love possesses disastrous traits, like psychopathy or narcissism. You'll overlook the negative because you're blinded by love, because the person makes you feel good and helps you escape the burdens of life. In my personal experience, I recall being gripped by the rose-tinted glasses as well. I was so in love with this woman that I overlooked her negative traits, and the fact that any possible relationship between us wouldn't have worked out in the long run. Even so, I remember being aware of these realizations, but I refused to acknowledge them. I ignored them until I couldn't anymore, when I was given a significant but desperately needed wake-up call. Eventually, the rose-tinted glasses were removed, and I could see clearly again. I realized how foolish the endeavor was, and I desired to never fall into that trap again. Becoming blinded by love is disastrous, and it can be rather painful, as I found out firsthand. So, how can it be prevented? Since that last experience, I've fallen in love again, but I've maintained my rationality this time around. How have I been able to do so? A good place I've commenced with is a few key realizations. 1. People aren't perfect, and they never will be. 2. The perfect relationship doesn't exist. And 3. A significant other will never completely fill the void. What do these ideas imply? Firstly, since individuals aren't perfect, the person you love won't be perfect either. And this is true no matter how much the rose-tinted glasses try to convince you of the opposite. They will have imperfections and downsides. There will be moments where they offend you, where you don't like them, and qualities that displease you to varying extents. What you have to decide for yourself is whether their positive traits objectively outweigh their negative traits. Furthermore, you should ask yourself if you're willing to tolerate those negative qualities. Looks fade over time, and what will ultimately persist is the mentality of your partner. They can be the most beautiful person externally, but if they have a rotten soul, then that is what you'll be left with once the looks disappear. Secondly, since the perfect relationship doesn't exist, you'll have to decide for yourself whether the trouble your significant other or loved one will inevitably cause is worth it. This trouble includes the sacrifice that is necessary to maintain the positive elements of the relationship, in addition to the more obvious hardships and trials. Gauging the trouble a loved one causes is applicable to both romantic relationships and platonic family relations. So, don't be afraid to sever ties with the family member if they're proving to be immensely detrimental or dangerous to you. Finally, a romantic partner won't absolutely fill the void. You must be more or less content with yourself and your situation before you can entertain a relationship. At the end of the day, an intimate relationship is two broken and imperfect individuals joining together. There will be pleasant moments, but there will also be some turbulence as well. You have to use your rational mind to accurately sift through all the information. Know the positive elements, but don't overlook the negative aspects. If there's a problem, find a viable solution quickly. As with most issues, if they're ignored for too long, then they eventually deteriorate into an irreversible situation. Maintaining your wits while in love will facilitate lasting relationships and enable you to effectively handle problems in a prompt manner. Furthermore, you'll likely be able to choose better partners, which theoretically implies that the number of complications will be minimized. People might not necessarily complete each other, but there are certainly individuals who will be more compatible for you than others. As frustrating as it might be to focus on compatibility and being a little more patient, the results will reveal themselves to be far more fruitful than you can imagine.